This week I got cheap and I wouldn't buy an $800 whiskey barrel table that my wife wants, but instead I decided to make my own.
Yep, and we get to meet Michael from Duke Harmon Woodworking. Plus, we'll share a few of our favorite maker videos of the week, but first it's time for our maker break.
Hey guys, I'm Rob.
And I'm Sarah, and this week Rob made a table.
Yeah, I did, and outside of the workbenches behind us, this was my first.
All right, I'm gonna be honest, this project was a bit scary for me. I've never made a table before, let alone a round one. But when my wife told me that she wanted a whiskey barrel gaming table and showed me a used one on Facebook Marketplace for $800, yeah, I knew I needed to find another way. So instead, I bought some pre-milled 1x6s, grabbed a few aluminum bar clamps from Harbor Freight, and started to make my cuts. Now, I knew I wanted a 48-inch round table, so I cut my boards to around 49, so I'd be sure to have 48 after I cut the circle out later. When the pieces were ready, I set up the bar clamps. Now, I've never used these before, but boy do they make glue-ups easier. After getting them in place, I laid out the boards, paying attention to the grains and the knots. Now, my wife specifically asked me to get knotty pine so it would match a few of the things I built in our family room. Next, I started to glue them up. I used lots of Titebond 2 on each edge. Then I tightened up the clamps, and it was immediately obvious that some of the boards were warped a bit and I would need more clamping power, so I clamped a few other boards across it, trying to keep it all flat. It wasn't perfect, so after it dried, I had to use my sander to even out the surface. My wife asked for a rustic look, so a few waves and bumps in the surface were acceptable. Then it was time to cut out the top. Now, there are a few ways to do this. I've done it before by building a jig for my jigsaw, but the edges were never vertical. So this time I decided to borrow my brother's Ryobi router and this clever circle cutting kit. To make it work, you simply find the center of your circle, you pre-drill a hole with a bit included. Next, you screw on this plastic disc, which becomes the pivot point for your circle. Then it's as easy as attaching a router to the plate, attaching the plate to the bar, and then adjusting the bar to your desired diameter. Then you start to cut. I made a total of 3 passes, cutting deeper each time. When I finally cut through, I simply removed the waste and boom, perfect circle. Next, I had to cut the circle out of the center that would hold the glass. Now my glass is just about a 1/2 inch thick, so I needed to cut a 1/2 inch deep rabbet for the glass to rest on. So I set the router to a 1/2 inch and cut a circle the size of the glass. Next, I progressively moved the router further into the circle to make the rabbet. After I had about 3/4 of an inch worth of rabbet, I plunged the rest of the way through and cut out the center circle. Next, I made another 48-inch slab of boards to laminate onto the top, making the tabletop far more solid. I first laid the circle on top and traced it onto the square piece. That gave me guidelines for rough cutting the second circle. So then I used the heart jigsaw to cut just outside of the lines. When I had the rough circle cut, I could just glue the 2 pieces together. Now I lined the 2 pieces up so the grain of the boards went opposite each other. That would cut down on flexibility of the final piece. Once I got them lined up, I just kind of glued them in place with a lot of glue. Then I used every clamp I could possibly find and I let it dry overnight. The next day I came down and removed the clamps. This next part I've been looking forward to trying for a long time. I got a trim bit with a bearing on it so I could use the top as the guide and perfectly cut away the extra material I left for the jigsaw. Wow, is that gratifying! After I got it all evened up, I got to use a 1/2 inch roundover bit for the first time too, on all the edges. That would kind of soften things up for all those nights we'll be resting our arms on the table, keeping our cards close to our chest. Then it was time to start sanding again. I cleaned up a few rough spots and the newly cut edges. Last of all, just gotta add a finish. After watching a Steve Ramsey video recently about finish, he convinced me to try lacquer for the first time. It's really easy to apply and it gives you a really strong finish, which is important for a table that will get a lot of abuse. After 3 coats, it was ready. I cut out this round piece of MDF for the barrel to rest on, so there's no chance of getting any rust in the carpet. I rolled the barrel into place, laid the top on top, and slid in the glass. And it turned out beautiful. Now the only thing left to do is to attach it permanently, which I'm gonna do later tonight after I pick up some black angle braces from Home Depot. I'll just screw those into the barrel and into the table, and that should do it. And finally, I have a new place where I can totally decimate my family at Catan Jr.
What a cool project. I want one.
Make one. No, seriously, I was super pumped with like how it came out. My family's really big in playing board games together, so now we finally have a dedicated place to do that.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm pretty happy.
So you're happy with it?
Yeah. All right, so my daughter came up with this really cool idea though, that I kind of out of nowhere, she's like, if you just kind of cut a hole in the side of the barrel and make a shelf, then we can store all of the board games in there. And I thought that's pretty cool.
I like that. That's awesome. All right, guys, we share the Maker universe with a ton of amazing content creators, and every week we reach out to interview a new one. This week we ran across a crazy video on CNN that pointed us to Michael of Duke Harmon Woodworking. Michael was on CNN because he designed and built a bar for his squirrels.
Hey Rob and Sarah, thank you so much for having me on the show. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and my channels. I am a full-time construction estimator. I work with a large home builder here in Ohio, and we build large custom homes. I'm 35, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and I live in Hilliard now. And I have 4 kids, so time to do my woodworking is always at night. And it's kind of tough because you're tired, but I just push myself through it. And I decided to start my YouTube channel just to share my work and get people more into woodworking, especially the younger crowd. I don't see a whole lot of young guys and girls woodworking these days, so hopefully it helps to inspire them. What tool is my most unsung hero of the shop? This guy is. For the grand total of $1.99, you could be the proud owner of whatever this is called. However, it is irreplaceable in my shop. If I ever need to make a crazy cut or some kind of weird angle, this is what I use. It's gotta be my inside out hollow heart vase. It was turned on the lathe twice with 3 different woods: walnut, poplar, and pallet wood. And I had a lot of fun building that guy. What am I working on now? Building the Nutty Bar as fast as I can. They're selling like hotcakes. But after the Nutty Bar, I will be expanding to multiple different animals such as bird condos, bear lounges, and a possum feeder. So another maker that I love to follow is a guy named Cook Woodworks. This dude makes everything he turns look easy. He has a lot more subscribers than I do. However, I'm the low man on the totem pole when it comes to YouTube. So if there's anybody I'd like to give a shout out to, it's Cook Woodworks. That dude's awesome. Sarah and Rob, thank you so much for talking with me today. It has been such an honor to be on your show, and thanks for having me. But I have a ton of Nutty Bar orders to fill. So I gotta get building. I will see you guys on the next project. Have a good night and stay safe.
Hey, thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. If you guys are not yet subscribed to his YouTube channel, you can find it at Duke Harmon Woodworking on YouTube.
Moving on to a few of our favorite maker videos this week, Tyler of DIY Tyler was sick of going through metal and canvas outdoor swings, and after the second one bit the dust, he figured it was time to make one that would last.
Next up, David from Make Something decided to make something. And because he can apparently build anything, he decided to build this custom Bluetooth speaker, effectively making the rest of us feel bad about ourselves.
Oh, stop. And last of all, Zyla Foxland, another Ohio maker,
Woot.
got a live edge piece from her uncle and got the crazy idea to turn it into a river paddle. No, it doesn't make sense, but it does make fun. Zyla's always fun.
All right, maker friends, that's all we've got. If you saw a maker video this week that should have been mentioned, do us a favor and link it in the comments below.
If you link it, we'll watch it.
Yep, and special thanks to Heart for sponsoring this episode and reminding us that we can build anything we can imagine if we do it with heart.
Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.
All right, break's over.
Let's make something.